Hello, I'm Hayden and welcome to Benevolent Business Podcast. This week we've got McCabe. She is the entrepreneur that started the first vegan restaurant chain in the UK, the Tipsy Vegan.
It has to be from the moment they come in, they walk away and go, you know what, I couldn't have had that experience anywhere else. And I'm so surprised that I had that experience in a vegan restaurant in terms of the flavour of food, the way it's delivered, the knowledge of the staff, friendliness of the atmosphere, the ambience. And that's why we have the drinks that we have and the types of food. It's what we like to eat. It's like what we like to experience. Maybe about 3 weeks where I was fulfilled and very happy, and quite soon into that it was okay, I want to do this, scale it, I want to have this in other cities, I want to be able to deliver this experience that, you know, what we're doing at Norwich, I want to do it in other locations. When we started, that was a really big struggle. Most of what we do in-house from scratch. It's very labour intensive. Delivering something that's unique to the Tipsy Vegan, you only experience it here.
You should definitely go there. Like, if you're in the Cambridge area, it is incredible. And they're opening their third location in London hopefully soon, so that'll be much closer for me to get to and easier, so I'll definitely be dining there frequently. But the food is incredible, the atmosphere is incredible, drinks are incredible, just everything about it. It's just this whole experience that isn't about it specifically being vegan. It's about creating an incredible atmosphere, a lovely space to be in, but all the food's vegan. Anyway, enough about food, because I'm hungry now. Let's get stuck into the conversation. Michelle, thank you for coming on Benevolent Business.
My pleasure.
Firstly, I love the charcoal lemonade, so if anyone likes charcoal lemonade, Tipsy Vegan's a great place to get one.
It is.
So we were chatting a bit before, but the first thing I wanted to jump into is why a vegan restaurant? You kind of explained you went vegan in an instant, which is the first time I've ever heard that, someone actually in an instant went vegan. But so I guess why a vegan restaurant, and what qualifies you to run one?
So I have been in hospitality since I was 16 years old. I've worked from hostess, barback, through to bartending, waitressing, through to management, and progressed onto finance management. That's what I was doing in the instant that I turned vegan. I was finance manager for hospitality groups, and I was watching a documentary and found out a lot of things that I didn't realize, and it was an overnight decision. Obviously I was still mid-career, so the plan had always been to have a bar and restaurant. Had always been my goal, and I kind of was at a bit of a crossroads when I went vegan. I honestly, at that point, I don't think I'd ever even been to a vegan restaurant. So I started to think about what I would do going forward, and during the same time, I met my partner, Cheryl, who lives in Norfolk. So it was around all the same time I moved up to Norfolk, and she started to play around with recipes. She wasn't vegan, I was, and she played around with recipes to kind of make us food that we'd both eat. So vegan versions of regular food, and she had a real talent at it, and kind of we started to see that there was potential that we could start something together. So for all the experience I have in hospitality, I can't cook. I know what good food tastes like, but I've never been good in the kitchen at all, and she's really amazing at it. So she was a teacher at the time. I didn't want to be a finance manager for bars and restaurants that weren't vegan, and we decided to we bought a food truck and decided to start from there. So there was always going to be a restaurant. The vegan element of it came after I became vegan 8-9 years ago.
What was the driver for you why did you want your own restaurant?
I love hospitality. I love the experience of going out and meeting up with friends, or celebrating an occasion, or having dinner with your partner. I have always been someone that goes out. Grew up in London, spent a lot of my 20s and early 30s in London, and there's a real going out culture there, and I live it, I love it. I'm very passionate about it. And it is very experience focused for me. Food and drink obviously is very important. It has to be delivered well, but it's really about the experience that our customers have, and that I have had in some of those places. I mentioned briefly to you earlier, I lived in the US for a while, and I really love that style of very friendly customer service, really focused on you having a good time when you go out. So that was what I wanted to have. I wanted to have elements of all of the places that I've been to that I enjoyed, wrapped up into my ideal type of restaurant.
I'd certainly say on a side note, you've definitely achieved that in this restaurant, because as I said to you, I came here with my girlfriend a few weeks ago, and here I am back recording with you because I hunted you down and found you and asked you to come on the podcast because I had such a great experience here and wanted to share that with the audience. So you said your dream of having a restaurant, so that dream has come true for you. Do you feel, I'm very curious to know how having that goal ticked off, if you're anything like me, by the time that goal was ticked off, you've already set 5 more. That means that this goal is no longer satisfactory. So, do you feel like you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, or is it feel like
nowhere near? No. So we opened our first location. It was in Norwich, and we had a food truck. Then we progressed onto a permanent static premise on Norwich Market, and then we opened the Tipsy Vegan 2 years after having that diner in 2017. And that was a real moment of, okay, this has been 20 years in the making. You have this place, and it's everything we do here is based around what myself and Cheryl love when we go out. And that's why we have the drinks that we have and the types of food. It's what we like to eat. It's like what we like to experience. So yeah, there was maybe about 3 weeks where it was fulfilled and very happy. And quite soon into that, it was, okay, I want to do this. Scale it. I want to have this in other cities. I want to be able to deliver this experience that, what we're doing at Norwich, I want to do it in other locations. So it was very, very soon after opening. We've got something special here. We are building up a really great core customer base, and I think this can be replicated.
Spoken as every entrepreneur, I think as soon as you achieve the goal, it's just like, all right, now let's scale it massively.
Yes.
So being a vegan or a vegan restaurant and striving that to be quite a big chain, do you think that vegan element amplifies your chances, or do you think it's a hindrance? Because, like, for me, I think, I'm going to answer the question anyway, but I feel like it's a very on-trend thing, and there's much more awareness around the reasons of why plant-based is a benefit to the planet, to your body, as well as other reasons. And so for you, do you think it's the benefit, or do you think it's a hindrance in the fact that not everyone's vegan?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think it can work both ways. So our whole concept, business plan, ethos was that when you came into our restaurant, it felt like any other restaurant, but done really well. So our whole thing was that that was why the Tipsy Vegan came about, the name. We wanted to ensure that that was the last time we really spoke about the fact that it was vegan. So it's there, it's very clear. The Tipsy, denotes a little bit of playful element to what we're doing, and there's obviously the drink side of it. But once you come in, that's not really then reinforced again. The menu doesn't read like a typical, and I think there's a lot more now in terms of what you can get at a vegan restaurant. But certainly when we started 6-7 years ago, there was a real concept of what a vegan restaurant would look like, or what you'd have there. So we wanted to, we knew that we wouldn't be able to grow by just appealing to vegans coming into our restaurant. There was no way that we'd be able to sustain a business. So what had to happen was that vegans brought their friends in, brought their family in, and those friends and those family go, I'm not vegan, but I totally love this, and I will come back here. And that was from the outset. It was like and that's why it's so experience focused. It has to be from the moment they come in, they walk away and go, you know what, I couldn't have had that experience anywhere else. And I'm so surprised that I had that experience in a vegan restaurant in terms of the flavor of food, the way it's delivered, the knowledge of the staff, the friendliness of the atmosphere, the ambiance. So a help and a hindrance, because vegans support other vegans, and we've had a lot of support. We have a great core customer base of vegan customers, and the reason we've been able to grow is because they've shouted about us and they've brought their friends and their family, and it's grown like that. So it's very on trend at the moment. So I think we in the last 5 years we've definitely benefited from people wanting to check us out and come in, but certainly the reason that they've come back time and time again is because of what they've experienced when they've come in. So I don't know. You need to ask me that again in 5 years.
What about for the other side of things, like supply chain? So you've spoken about years of experience in the restaurant industry, in all elements of it, and in the finance sector within hospitality. So how have you found the relationship with a vegan restaurant in terms of finding the right suppliers? And obviously for that, with plants, it's a lot harder to preserve them in the same way that you can non-vegan produce. So
yeah.
Is that helping you, or is that quite a hindrance?
Well, it's massively changed. So when we started, that was a really big struggle. So two elements to it. We've obviously got the food side, which we make most of what we do in-house from scratch. It's very labor intensive, because again, it's that we're delivering something that's unique to the Tipsy Vegan. You only experience it here. So in terms of core ingredients, it's a lot of fruit and vegetables. We have local veg suppliers, so that's easy enough. But in terms of like specialty items like wheat gluten for seitan and tempeh, they were really difficult at the beginning. And being in Norwich, so you're not in a hugely central location, so it was a lot of finding suppliers and then bulk buying so that they would actually deliver the quantities that we needed. But now it's so that was the side with food. In terms of drinks, I obviously had to have everything checked, and again, it's a lot better now. Back then, a lot of wines didn't label themselves as vegan, even if they were. Spirits never put it on if they're vegan or not. So there was a lot of having to be super careful about what we'd bring in, being able to ensure that it was vegan. Now it's like when we're going to change our products, I just send through to the drink suppliers and it's already marked on there. Everything is whether it's vegan or not. And there are so many core ingredient suppliers available all over the country that we've not struggled the way we did at the beginning. Yeah,
that's something like, as you alluded, like in wine, I didn't realise, because have you heard of Thompson and Scott, the vegan wine company?
No.
Okay, so there's a vegan wine company. I interviewed Amanda, she makes up the Thompson side of the business, and so interviewing her, it's a whole vegan wine business, and like there, I was just kind of, isn't all wine vegan? And then learned the whole industry of like what it is and how, the fact that generally a lot of wines are not actually vegan because of the way in which they're manufactured and made.
Because it's not in the final product, it doesn't need to be on the label. So like being able to, and there's a certain level of, definitely at the beginning, there's a lot of vegans that are coming into us, so they want to be sure that we've done all that work and we're ensuring that every product that we're serving them is vegan. So it was very time consuming. I would always be really fearful of putting on a new product because there was so much around ensuring that it was, if it didn't have the kind of distinct vegan label on it. Way easier now, easier. And actually, if anything is made vegan, they stick it on that label because they know that it's a selling point. So it was difficult at the beginning, but much easier now.
Staff, as I mentioned to you when we were talking, this is one of the main reasons I started Benevolent Business was just in my own struggles of building a team, retaining a team. What have you learned about building a team, retaining a team in an industry that is just renowned for a high churn rate? And every business owner I speak to, as soon as I say staff, there's this weird look of fear. Just like staff.
It's difficult, and like you say, our industry is renowned for it. I think hospitality specifically in the UK has a different kind of, you can be an Ireland or America and you can build a career in hospitality, and it's never seen like that really here. So in regular times, it's a difficult industry, but after what's happened over the last 2 years of the pandemic, and previous to that with Brexit, there's been a huge strain put on the industry in terms of the amount of people that are still in it and want to be in it. So retention is difficult. We're not immune from the kind of problems that have happened, and I think there's just, people are more intentional about where they want to be and what they want. So what we found works best for us, generally, not all of our staff are vegan, but when they are, there's that little bit more investment in what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And we take kind of personality and alignment with our ethos over experience any day of the week. Because I feel like we kind of, our top level managers and myself are quite experienced, that we're able to deliver the training, but it's a hard industry to be in, and you have to there has to be some reason that you want to, and it's usually money is not the biggest motivator for people. So whether it be that they're really aligned with what we're doing and our vision and how we're wanting to grow, or they like the training pathways, or it really fits around what they're doing and it's an enjoyable environment for them, tends to work best. We've got a great team of people, we really do, and for the size of what we have here at Cambridge, it took a while, but we've got some real assets within this business. And our Norwich location, we kept all of our staff throughout the pandemic, and had them all when we reopened last year. It's a smaller team, and that's easier. So I think in a bigger place and in an area like this where there's lots of hospitality places, it can be more difficult. But we've done well considering.
I wondered if the whole vegan aspect of it would be an actual gem in retaining staff because of that exact mission and that exact ethos that you're here for, and it sounds like it does work well.
Yeah, that's what we found. So anyone that is vegan or kind of aligned with what we're doing and why we're doing it tend to stick with it when it's difficult. And it is difficult. It's an exceptionally busy place, and there's a lot going on, and it can be high stress, and we're all about the customer experience, so that can be a lot, but there has to be some reason other than this is my job as to why you're here.
Michelle, you've run a restaurant through a pandemic, but so I wonder if this is going to be the answer, but what has been in growing the Tipsy Vegan, having 2 locations, what has been the biggest challenge that you've found?
The biggest challenge is replicating what we did at our first location. Yeah, so I think I didn't appreciate quite as much how much time it takes to ingrain and establish that type of experience, product, delivery of product. And I thought it would be much easier than it ended up being, bringing it to a new city. We had 5 years to establish ourselves in Norwich, and some of the things, we've got a great system. We have a lot of processes. We've got an online training pathway that all of our team follow. But there's we opened a brand new place that there was everyone within this place was brand new, and it I think that replicating and having that same experience, and it's just now been in the last 2-3 months, we have an internal review system. So anyone that dines with us, they booked on Res Diary, they get an email to say to leave us a review. And we've seen a lot over the last 2-3 months to say that I've been to your Norwich restaurant, loved it, I've been to Cambridge, and it's just as amazing. And that's the biggest thing for us. But that took a while, if I'm honest. And it was a challenge. Yeah,
I'm really curious about that in terms of, as you said, because you're replicating what you've already done. But did you find this? So you said that's your biggest challenge in replicating. Was it easier to open the second restaurant, or was it easier to do the first one? Or does it feel like it was harder despite the fact it was probably easier?
The things that I thought would be easy were hard. So I thought that because we had the menu, we have all the specs, we have the processes, we have the steps of service that we follow. So I thought opening would be relatively easy. But it was just, it's hard to explain, but all those kind of things that crop up in a day-to-day, there was no back catalogue of experience from anyone here to kind of draw on. And I think it was, in hindsight, I would have, if we're going to look to open London, we will absolutely have someone from our kitchen and from our front of house from here go there for the first 6 months. I think because it just reinforces that when anything crops up, if there's anything that's not working correctly, they go, okay, this is how we do it at Tipsy. And it's a much bigger place than our Norwich location, so there's just a lot that I thought would be easier than it was.
So we spoke a bit about, before we started recording, about your ambitions, and so like obviously when you read about Tipsy, when you see it online and like from your LinkedIn profile, it talks about becoming the first vegan chain. Yeah. So London's obviously the 3rd location that's going to open up hopefully next year. Yes. So what's your ambition? Is there going to be 3 Tipsies? Is it going to be 5? Is it going to be 105? Is there going to be 1,000? Is it going to be worldwide? Is it going to be UK?
I would love it to be international. I'd love to have some. I'd love to open one in Ireland. I'd love to open one in Boston and New York, just because I've got a lot of, I've spent a lot of time there, and I think it would work well what we do. The plan, the kind of next 3 years, is London, Bristol, Manchester. They were the 3 sites that we're looking at. But if we're going to be a chain, that you can have up to 1,000 restaurants, and you can have 5. My answer changes week to week, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It's been a tough year, but it always is. There's just embedding yourself in a new city, and I think we're there now with here. So 2 months ago, I probably said we were a year away from London. Now, if I found the right site, I'd say we'd go for it. We're kind of ready.
So having the ambition and that dream of saying like the idea of 1,000 restaurants, do you see like envisioning that future, envisioning 1,000 Tipsies? Are you like CEO in it? Are you running it, or do you see yourself stepping down at some point?
I'll still be behind the bar making the drinks on a Friday night. Just only random. It's very important to me. It's my passion. This is like my dream. It's from wake up to sleep, everything about this business is ingrained in me. So I don't know, honestly. I would like to think that I was involved in the entire growth process of it, because we're only at site number 2, but what I've seen is there's a lot to learn with the site, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot that we haven't considered when we go into London. And I'd like to be part of that process and ensure that at the core of everything is the experience that, whether, and there's elements of Norwich and Cambridge and London, I'm sure that it would be specific to that area and that location, but that there's that general, I was totally looked after in there. They were, that the whole focus when I went into that restaurant was for me to have the best possible time I could and the people that I was with. So I would like to be driving that as long as possible.
Hope you're enjoying the conversation. I'm just interrupting with, we don't have any official sponsors on the podcast, so I'm going to use this opportunity to shout about some benevolent businesses that I see in the world, that I use myself personally, that I want to encourage you to try out and just get the best out of what businesses have to offer. So I'm going to be shouting about Huel. I became a hooligan a few months ago, and it was actually because they sponsored Diary of a CEO podcast with Stephen Bartlett, and Stephen Bartlett was always screaming about it and talking about it. So yes, of course, there's huge benefits. I tried it out purely based on the idea that as I'm trying to become more and more plant-based, and I'm vegetarian, but I'm trying to be more vegan, Huel is a great way for me to kind of increase that, as it's completely plant-based, it's vegan. I don't use it as a meal supplement, but I do use it as a way to just get more protein and more vitamins and minerals into my diet on a daily basis. Before I talk to you about the biggest benefit, I'll mention some of the downsides. Really is, I started by trying the ready-to-drink Huels, and I have to be honest, they are disgusting. They taste far. Anyone that can say they taste nice, I just can't agree with. Don't understand how you can enjoy the taste of it. Something must be wrong with your taste buds. But I pursued, kept trying, and in the end I bought the bags where you mix it yourself. I got the black edition with the extra protein. Those I do get along with a lot better, but do be prepared with that. It is something that the taste isn't there, but the health benefits are definitely there when you actually go through the ingredients and what it's full of. It is incredible what they can fit into one drink, being 400 calories, despite the fact it's 40 grams of protein. It's got 26 vitamins and minerals in it. And the biggest benefit I've seen is my hobby skateboarding. Straight away I found if I drank a Huel, I was suffering a lot with like fatigue, so I would go skate, come home, and the next day like my thighs would be aching, legs are aching all over just from like wearing myself out. Yet I found if I drank a Huel, because of all the nutrients I'm getting and the extra protein of course, my legs were fine. My recovery time went from like a day or two to 0. I didn't need any recovery time. I could go skate day after day. And in fact, I'm in Jamaica right now on a 6-week trip volunteering. I've had brought Huel with me, which again helps out massively. It's just a way for me to boost the nutrients I'm getting on a day-to-day basis. And I literally have run out the last few days, and I've noticed my legs are aching where I'm trying to skate, but because I'm not getting my Huel each day, I'm aching. So I can't wait to get home, get a fresh batch. So check it out for yourself, let me know what you think, if you like it, if you don't. And of course the other thing I will mention is, I did talk about the taste and not liking it so much, however you can mix it up, create all kinds of different shakes and whatnot. People have done some incredible things, so check them out on Instagram, you'll get all kinds of inspiration there. Back to the podcast. Yeah, because I was curious of that, because like with my, as I was talking before, like having my own company, growing a team, and my vision, my dream was nationwide, going global. As I said, like I was systemizing my business with the idea that I wanted to be able to translate into other languages simple enough so that it could be understood. But as your business scales in that way, so like you've got a restaurant, but running one restaurant, I'm sure you've experienced, is different to running 2. Yeah. And compare that to running 10. As that grows, your your role will have to have less and less responsibility. So you talk about being able to jump behind the bar on a Friday evening.
Yeah.
If you've got 1,000 restaurants, chances are you can't. If you're running a business with 1,000 restaurants, chances are the only thing you do is deal with your top managers that come to you with a problem they can't solve, and they'll come to you with a list of problems, and you'll have to pick which one you're going to solve today. And that's something I thought about a lot, and I was like dreaming of getting to that point. I was like, I love the idea of having hundreds of people, thousands, tens of thousands of employees, and getting to a point where my sole responsibility is just I deal with the crap that no one can deal with. I think as I've got older, I've thought about that more and learned and studied, read more about people that have been CEOs and literally dealt with that kind of position, and realised maybe I don't want to be there. But I just wondered if you pondered that, and if you think, like, because realistically, like, having 1,000 restaurants is going to be, if you're running it, you will probably have very little to do with it. It will be like in the face of it, but it will just be like, here's the biggest problem we've got, and there's 10 of them. Which one can you solve for us?
Yeah, and I think the key with that, and as you grow, and for me certainly, and how we've operated since we've opened, is that we promote within, so that as we grow, the new sites are being looked after by those people that have been the waiters, the bartenders, the managers, so that there's always that element of us, myself and Cheryl, in these new sites, you know. So everything, you know, 90% of what you do can be systemized and processed, and there's a document to kind of say, this is what you do in this scenario, this is how we do things, this is how you train, this is what you should know by day 14, by day 90. But it takes, I think, for us to build the way we want to build it, it would need to be from within. It would need to be people that have worked. I think I read the biography of Howard Schultz, who's the owner of Starbucks, and when that was growing, it was very much, they don't refer to them as employees, they're partners, and it was always partners within each of their sites would then be promoted to look after multiple sites. So it was always from within, as opposed to bringing any kind of people that don't have any history to it or knowledge. And
creating that career opportunity that you spoke about, that you feel is not prevalent within the UK, and bringing that. So obviously with we spoke about before a bit of like economic stresses and time.
Yeah.
So how, you said like seeing like footfall increase and such. So how, like, pending recession, how do you, as someone in hospitality, like, in my opinion, I'm not involved in hospitality, but like hospitality's been hit brutally hard, and feels like there's not a huge. Obviously there was the Eat Out to Help Out kind of scheme. I feel like overall, like, hospitality is always going to be the first one to suffer, because it's the first thing is
first thing you can cut off.
As an individual, you'll cut off. Oh, we just won't go out as much.
And
then after that, you start thinking about the gardener, the hairdresser, the cleaner. But before that, we just won't go out. So how do you prepare for a recession?
Well,
after COVID,
constantly adapt, change what you're doing. Yes, so it is the first thing that you cut off, the Friday night out, but also people will still have birthdays within that period, people still have anniversaries, and if we've done half the job that we've aimed to do over these last years, where do I go where I'm treated like it's a special occasion? Oh, Tipsy, they always look after us. So that's one of the things that we're looking at, where we're going to close on Mondays and Tuesdays in the next quarter, from middle of September to November, and just kind of it gives our team a break on a Monday and Tuesday, because the real struggle with hospitality at the moment is that it is still busy, people are still going out, it's just that the costs are now overtaking the revenue. So even if you have strong revenue, you have much bigger costs associated, because everything has gone up at a time when VAT kicked in, which meant your kind of net revenues went down. So it's difficult to balance that, and by kind of moving everything to a 5-day week, it releases a lot of kind of admin time and rota time, because it's just people be on set days, and we've put together some compelling offers for midweek to not because I'm fully aware that people aren't going to be going out as frivolously, but when there are those special occasions, well, we're going to be doing some of our most asked about large plates, so we're small plates predominantly, but we used to do full plates, big plates, and sometimes we get asked for that, so it's something we're going to do at lunchtime, and we've got like the occasions table, so you can book if you've got a special occasion for your partner, an anniversary, or it's, you know, your daughter's birthday. You can book this package, and we take care of all the details. Basically, we set the table. There's mimosa on arrival. There's, you know, a birthday dessert. So we have to just be inventive with what we're doing, and ensure that, you know, there will be people going out, and we have to be at top of the list for that one evening out, 2 evenings out, that they feel there's great value for money in what we do, and there's it feels like it was worth it. So
I like your positivity, and you're thinking, like, I asked the question, all you've got is solutions, all you've got is ideas. It's not, you're talking proactively. I like that, and I think that's going to be the big thing that will help people, that will get a business through a recession or anything, whatever it is. What I don't think business owners think about this, and it's something that I've pondered literally just in this split second. What are you most proud of in this business?
One of the things I'm most proud of is that all of our managers, all of our head chefs, from operations manager, head chefs down to supervisors, are all female.
Really?
So yes, all of them, and the best of the best. It wasn't they weren't chosen because they were female. But I grew up in this industry. It's very male dominated, especially in the kitchens, especially in any management roles. So it was always really important for me to ensure, like I said to you, that there's a progress pathway in our company. So you might start as a bartender, waitress, but there's that pathway where you can progress. And that's what we have. So we have a very female heavy, it's 2 female founders, and then a fully female management team. And it works well. It's not, it honestly wasn't intentional. We don't not interview or recruit males. It's just so happened that the best person for this job, and I think it's important for myself and Cheryl as founders to give those opportunities to show that you absolutely can be a female manager, founder, entrepreneur, business person, and you can do well at it.
I definitely think that's something you should shout about more.
I know. Yeah.
Well, 2 female founders, and then having
all of them. Head chef, sous chef, managers,
in an
ops
industry,
manager.
as you said, like my only employment I've ever had is in hospitality.
Yeah.
When I was, I don't know, late teens, but very, very, very male dominated. That is extraordinary.
And across 2 different cities as well,
Yeah.
So we're definitely proud of that, and we need to speak more about it.
Yeah, you do, because just carry on scaling that. Imagine that as a company with 1,000 chains. Well, that would be a whole nother, as you're saying, like first vegan chain. Yeah. But then if you maintain your female-led,
100%. Yeah.
What you've
definitely
got now, if you keep that going, you'll be you'd be the first and only female-led chain. I think. You're quite extraordinary. So, Michelle, it's been a wonderful conversation, but we are both limited with time, unfortunately. I could spend a lot more time in this wonderful, wonderful restaurant, but unfortunately we are limited. So the closing tradition has become 2 questions. I did have a final question, but it's now 2. So, firstly, what is one thing within the world that you hope will one day be eradicated?
Eating animals.
Oh, I guess that was coming.
But it is. It genuinely is.
Yeah.
And I think it will come.
Really?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
What makes you confident it will come?
Because we've seen the shift over the last few years, and it's now in the mainstream. It's pretty common knowledge that the food system as it is not sustainable, and there are so many negative aspects to consuming animal products. And I think the way the world is with technology and how we evolve and expand, there will be more efficient and more sustainable ways to ensure that we are eating healthily, and it won't involve animal carcasses.
Yeah. I think you're right. I saw some interesting stats in the US of the intake in a plant-based diet and the increase in sales of like vegan options, veg options. However, the sale of meat has not yet decreased, which I thought was interesting. So people are just eating and consuming more. Hopefully that was just in the US, but I'd be confident to say that in the UK, I'd assume that meat is starting to decline in South. But
yeah, and there was something about like a baby born now is 85% likely to be vegan when they grow up. So I think it's going to be that natural new generations and a new way of thinking. I think it will. Yeah.
I think people are becoming more aware of like how bizarre the system is, and like so certain things with veganism, people will kind of, I think people's reactions have been a bit like, well, that's a bit weird. Why are you not having meat? And like, oh, that's a bit gross. And, or like the idea of lab-grown meats. Yeah. And initial reactions of people being like, this is kind of gross. And I'm like, do you actually know what the process is of your meat arriving on your plate?
Exactly.
Like, that is gross. The final question I now have for the podcast is, given that it's called Benevolent Business, so I want to share as much benevolent business as possible, what is one positive thing that you can leave us with? Whether it's something you've read in the news, something about Tipsy Vegan.
Well, you said earlier that I tend to look at solutions and have a positive spin on things. And this was told to me by a good friend when I have those times of like, oh, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I have survived 100% of the past struggles that I've had. 100%. So the likelihood of me being able to deal with this next period is looking quite good.
I like that. I'm going to share that with
100%.
Yeah, that's
my
cool.
past struggles have been dealt with.
I have kind of this, I don't know what you'd call it, life philosophy, or this like stat that I walk with and I remind myself of regularly in times when I think if you run a business or quite entrepreneurial, or if you're just a bit like me and you're a bit crazy, you'll have ideas and things that will be ridiculous, and people will tell you they're impossible, they're ridiculous, the odds are against you. Do you know what your chances are of existing?
What?
So for you to exist as the individual you are today, your chances, bearing in mind for you to exist, your parents had to meet at the exact moment in time they did, and in order for that to happen, their parents, the entirety of human history had to occur in the exact way for you to exist as the individual you are today. Your chances of that are 1 in 400 trillion.
Wow.
You beat the most ridiculous odds. So if you say you want to build the first vegan chain and people say, your chances of that are 1 in a million. Yeah. Well, I've already beaten a 1 in 400 trillion odd.
I like that.
Yeah, if
That's
you say, I want to be a
amazing.
billionaire, well, only 3,000 people on earth are a billionaire, so your chances are 3,000 out of 8 billion. Well, I've beat a 1 in 400 trillion odds.
That's going to be a new comeback for everything.
Yeah.
That's great. It's really good.
So, and I will definitely adopt yours of I've survived 100% of the struggles I've experienced. So. Thank you, Michelle. It's been absolutely
amazing.
Very
much, Hayden. Thank you. And that's why we have the drinks that we have and the types of food. It's what we like to eat. It's like what we like to experience. Yeah, there was maybe about 3 weeks where I was fulfilled and very happy, and quite soon into that it was, okay, I want to do this, scale it. I want to have this in other cities. I want to be able to deliver this experience that, what we're doing at Norwich, I want to do it in other locations. It has to be from the moment they come in, they walk away and go, you know what, I couldn't have had that experience anywhere else. And I'm so surprised that I had that experience in a vegan restaurant in terms of the flavour of food, the way it's delivered, the knowledge of the staff, the friendliness of the atmosphere, the ambience. Well, it's massively changed. So when we started, that was a really big struggle. Most of what we do in-house from scratch. It's very labour intensive because again, it's that we're delivering something that's unique to the Tipsy Vegan. You only experience it here.
What have you learned about building a team, retaining a team in an industry that is just renowned for a high churn rate?
There has to be some reason other than this is my job as to why you're here. Been to your Norwich restaurant, loved it. I've been to Cambridge, and it's just as amazing. And that's the biggest thing for us. But that took a while, if I'm honest. The real struggle with hospitality at the moment is that it is still busy. People are still going out. It's just that the costs are now overtaking the revenue. So even if you have strong revenue, you have much bigger costs associated because everything has gone up.
I like your positivity, and you're thinking, like, I asked the question, all you've got is solutions, all you've got is ideas. It's not you're talking proactively. I like that. And I think that's going to be the big thing that will help people, that will get a business through a recession or anything, whatever it is.
One of the things I'm most proud of is that all of our managers, all of our head chefs, from operations manager, head chefs down to supervisors, are all female. So I wasn't intentional. We don't not interview or recruit males. It's just so happened that the best person for this job, and I think it's important for myself and Cheryl as founders to give those opportunities to show that you absolutely can be a female manager, founder, entrepreneur, business person, and you can do well at it.
I definitely think that's something you should shout about more.
I know,
cool.
I know. Yeah.
Well, 2 female founders and then having a
All of them.
management
All
team
of them.
Yeah.
Head chef, sous chef, managers,
It's
technology, and how we evolve and expand. There will be more efficient and more sustainable ways to ensure that we are eating healthily, and it won't involve animal carcasses.
Yeah. Do you know what your chances are of existing?
What?
So for you to exist as the individual you are today, your chances, bearing in mind for you to exist, your parents had to meet at the exact moment in time they did, and in order for that to happen, their parents, the entirety of human history had to occur in the exact way for you to exist as the individual you are today. Your chances of that are 1 in 400 trillion.
Wow.
You beat the most ridiculous odds. So if you say you want to build the first vegan chain and people say, your chances of that are 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Well, I've already beaten the 1 in 400 trillion odd.
I like that.
Yeah, if
That's
you say, I want to be a
amazing.
billionaire, well, only 3,000 people on Earth are a billionaire, so your chances are 3,000 out of 8 billion. Well,
Yeah.
I've beat a 1 in 400 trillion odds.
That's going to be my new comeback for everything.
Yeah.
That's great. It's really good.